Hey everybody, Scott here with Keeping It Real Bass Fishing. Thanks for joining us today another broadcast here on the channel. I want to get back with you today about some ideas I've got. I want to share with you about on how to catch some large bass. How about that? How to catch some bass, period. To catch some big bass too, you know. If you never viewed this channel before, or if you're new to the channel, I always like to have everybody go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me, and helps me out with the cause. And if you would, might want to hit that notification button. That way you'll be sure and get all of our videos. And either this broadcast or this, recording, if you like the content, hit that like button as well. Let me know you liked it. Also, you can leave comments in that comment section. I love to hear your feedback. I do read it. Anything you'd like to share with me, I'll be glad to, read that. Or if you got questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them if I can. And if it's something, I can't answer, I believe I can get the answer for you. But there again, we do appreciate you taking your time to listen today. The other video, the last video I recorded, we talked about in using proper rods and reels, the difference between bait casting and rod and reels, and spinning rod and reels. And that's a good one. If you hadn't saw that video, I would recommend looking at that, especially if you're new to the channel or new to bass fishing or a beginner. A lot of great things in there, pointers I believe will help you out. Today I want to talk about some different things we can do. Catching some bass, catching some big bass at that, or just catching some bass. I get a question I get a lot is somebody will shoot me a picture and say, what would you throw, at this lake, or what would you throw here? And there'd be, a picture of an area where they're at, and it may be, full of lily pads. Or it may be an area that's just moss, or it could be algae all over the water. And I've seen all kind of pictures and different, it seems to me that a lot of guys are, still learning, on what to use, when and where. And I get that. I understand. Sometimes that can be a very a challenge. It could be a very difficult thing, especially if you're new to bass fishing, and or a beginner and just been at it for just weeks, months, a year or two. You may not have learned a lot of things, and you're just learning as you go. And if that's the case, it takes a lot of time. It's kind of like. It's kind of like going through school with no teacher. It's kind of hard. But anyway, that's why I'm here. I'm here to try to help you guys out, give you some pointers, try to save you some time, some trials and errors. And for an example, pop quiz. If I'm at a pond and we're going to say this pond has no structure, has no lay downs in it, no grass, no lily pads. Visibility is probably about 2 or 3 foot, maybe, and it probably ain't no deeper than 10 foot. Does that pond sound familiar? But anyway, and you walked up that pond and you never fished it. And here you are in July, and about the middle of July actually. What would you throw? That's the question. So that's things like that is important to know. If you what if the pond you walked up on to go fish was full of grass? What would you throw this time of year? Or if it's full of lily pads, or if you're on the river, or if you're on a reservoir, it doesn't matter. What would you throw? Now, different bodies of water present different strategies. And also the depthness of the water does too. And depending on if it's a river, lake or a pond. Those are all things matter and to take into consideration. But today we're talking about ponds. So the pond I just described to you a moment ago, in that situation, and if I walked up on this pond, and I fished this pond last week and the week before, I fished it a couple times. And if you've seen one of my other videos the other week, that I was pond I actually fished. I wasn't able to film none of the fishing, but that pond in particular. But and I caught fish. That particular evening, I was only there for a couple hours. I caught 3 largemouth bass on the backside, about 3 pounds or so, and I missed some other ones on the other side. But I never fished that pond, that time of day and this time of year. So when I walked up on it, I just looked at the pond and based off the conditions this time of year. I mean, if you're going to throw, can you throw a frog? You can throw a frog. There are different types of frogs. That's a big frog with a popper on, like a popper mouth on the front, and you got the smaller frog. I think if you can see that frog. There's different colors. You can throw these frogs, even though there's no vegetation. You can throw them. If you're in a pond, in other words, if there's no laydowns and no grass or lily pads, you still can throw these ponds, because bass. A frog is a natural food to a bass, and the frogs get in these ponds, and they're in there. And if you walk around the pond, you're gonna see them jumping around. So it's a natural food. But when you're fishing it, and when you have this thing tied on, like I say, I would put this on about maybe 10 to 12 pound test line, and I'd probably have it, being so little, I'll probably put it on a 6.5 foot medium action rod, probably 10, 12 pound line at the most. But when you fish it, you want to take it, throw it down the bank parallel. About 3, 4, 5 feet out from the bank. Stand on the edge of the bank, fire that thing down beside that bank, 3, 4, 5 feet out from the edge of the bank, and just work it back. Walk the dog with it, and just pop it. And, pop, 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 and let it stop. If the rings fade out, pop, 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 and let it stop. And the rings fade out. And when that thing stops, that bass can't stand it, he's gonna nail it. Around that pond. Don't try to overdo it. Like I said, I told you before, I like to keep it real. And just don't try to overwhelm yourself. That's the word I'm looking for. You tie your frog on this time of year. I'll tell you another. You can tie on buzzbait. See, that's a little baby buzzbait. People like to tie on them gigantic buzzbaits, make all that clacking noise. There's a bigger one. There are all kinds of buzzbaits out there. You can, everybody has their favorites or their preference. Whatever you want to throw. But my personal preference, based off of experience in the pond, I ain't talking about on the river, I ain't talking about down on Girlsville, I'm not talking about on Tennessee, Will or anywhere else. I'm just talking about ponds. I find that this little buzzbait right here, it's like this Buzz Junior. You'd be surprised how many bass and how many big bass you'll catch on that. Now guys, I'm telling you some stuff that I don't go telling everybody. I used to not tell nobody my secrets. I would keep all this stuff to myself. And my better half, she's sitting right there behind that camera, running that camera for me. And she'll tell you that. I used to not tell nobody nothing. But I just had to, a lot of guys want me to try to help them out. And I just finally decided that's what I do. But anyway, it's not a secret. You go to Walmart and buy them. But most people don't tell you, what they're catching their fish on. But this will catch fish if you'll throw it. And you can throw, if I can get them untangled. You know where a spook is? That's about a medium size. There are bigger ones, and then there are small ones. That's what's called a puppy spook. Are you seeing that good? I hope so. That's a puppy spook. And another good one is a whopper. It's called a whopper flopper. It's got that little propeller right there on the back. They come out with this a few years ago. You can see that. There's different colors. Depending on your reservoir or your pond, I should say, because we're talking about ponds. Color, if it was a cloudy day, I'd probably throw this clear one. If there's a sunshiny day, I'd throw the silver one. It's blue. Or, I can find it. This, or this white one. But notice I got it on this rod. It is a 7-foot rod. Like I told you, and that's a medium heavy. I can sling that thing across the pond and get some distance out of it. When you fish in top water, that's why it's important. You want that good rod, that medium heavy rod with that. Put you about, I'll say about 12, 14 pound test line on that thing. You can put a frog on it like this, a spook like that, or the one I just showed you, or a bigger buzz bait, one this size, or bigger, got a little weight to it. You sling that thing. If you got a good reel, it's got good ball bearing, it's a good reel. You can throw that thing across the pond, depending on how big the pond is. But you want to throw it down the bank. That's why I can stand on the edge of the bank and I can throw back and fire that thing down the edge of that bank, a long ways. And that way when I'm working back, I'm in that strike zone. That's important. That's why you want to be about 3 to 4 or 5 feet off the edge of the bank when you fish in top water like this. Is because you're in that strike zone. Because those fish on that type of pond I just described to you, here's the pop quiz, where do you think they're going to be at? Where do you think you're going to find those fish? If they're in a pond that's clear, water's probably, 2 or 3 foot of clarity, no more than 10 foot deep. I tell you, got no rocks, no stumps, no trees, no grass, no lily pads, no nothing to hide it behind or under or around. Those bass are going to roam. They're going to roam in that pond. That means they just run in the banks. And then when that water temperature gets warm or hot, in the ponds, it heats up fairly quick, especially on a shallow pond. Then fish get sluggish. And it seems like it takes the oxygen out of the water or something. They just don't, they just ain't super aggressive, all day long, especially in that hot sunshine. But early at night they'll bite good, or late in the evening, past last couple hours or so before it gets dark, especially if you can get some good shade on the water before the sun gets down, because they'll get in that shade areas and start looking for bait fish to try to feed on. And that's just, things you want to look for. You want to see on a pond, when you walk up on a pond, some things I look for is I look to see if I see a lot of frogs. If I see a lot of frogs hopping around, I see a lot of frogs around the bank. Do I see any kind of bait fish? Do I see a lot of baby bass, minnows, swimming around, or is it mostly bluegill? It's depending on the pond. Some of these ponds I fished lately, believe it or not, I found crappie in them. I not just found, I caught crappie. I got pictures. Gar, catfish, bass, a little bit of everything in them. But most of the time in ponds, they're going to feed on this brim or bluegill, or some people call them shell crackers, or warmouths. The bass will eat, that's what they'll eat. If they don't have anything else, or they don't even eat small baby bass are running around, they'll feed on them. They'll eat them frogs, crawdads, lizards, worms. All that stuff is natural to them, and especially around ponds, because the water, is confined. That's the stuff they normally eat a lot of. So, feed them what they want. It's as natural as you possibly can. So just remember, these are some good products. This is another good lure they came out with. It looks like a regular frog, but you notice it's got that trailer hook in the back. You can see that. It's got two hooks here and one here. That's the nose. But what's different about it, it's got the back legs they spin. And both of them spin. It's like the Whopper Blopper. It's the same idea, except both of these legs spin like that. And that thing comes through the water. It looks awesome. And that's another good lure to throw this time of year. And all this stuff I'm telling you is what you should be throwing now. Top water, especially on these ponds. And you'll catch fish, and even spinnerbait. Don't go tying on a 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce spinnerbait with big old willow leaves on there and throwing around in these shallow ponds. If you catch something on that, not saying you can't, but you're going to scare fish and run them off more than anything with that big thing splashing in the water and coming up through there. It'll spook them. You gotta use your small spinnerbait. Like this is I think it's a 5/16. I think it's a 5/16. I believe it is. It's got the Colorado braid Indiana blade on it, different colors, shad looking color. They make them all, white, even chartreuse and white. It's all different colors. But, it's depending on the clarity of the water. Clear water, that works well. Dirtier water, you may want to throw white and chartreuse. There's some other colors too, you can switch it up. I'll tell you one thing I learned about throwing spinnerbaits. Spinnerbait's probably one of my favorite baits. I throw spinnerbaits year round. Year round. Don't matter, wintertime, spring, summer. It's just, you fish it different ways. You can fish it fast, you can fish it slow. You can bump it off the bottom. There's all kinds of things you can do with it. And I catch fish on spinnerbaits all year. I've probably caught more large bass on the spinnerbait than more on a spinnerbait than I probably have between that and a jig and also a chatterbait. Those are the chatterbait, jig, and spinnerbait. Probably the three lures I've caught all my, let me back it up, and the Whopper Blopper and the buzzbait are the lures I've caught my largest bass on. And I've caught, the largest bass I ever caught was about 12 pounds. And I caught it on a buzzbait. I have I'm not going to pour all these out, but there's a large arsenal of spinnerbaits and chatterbaits just in that box. And I've got other boxes full of buzzbaits and and a whole lot more spinnerbaits. These are just some of my mostly go-to stuff. But these lures will catch fish this time of year if you'll fish them. Like I say, pond fishing, keep it in the strike zone. I mean, you can fire out into other parts of the water, and try to see if you can catch something out there roaming around. But try to stay in that strike zone. Just start fishing the strike zone. I'll walk all the way around that pond and throwing down the edge of the bank like I was telling you. And walk around it, throw a frog. Walk around it, throw a buzzbait. If you see fish busting on chasing shad or something, throw a spook, pop R. You see, that's another one you can throw, pop R. And I want to show you something else. Now you remember, you seen this on Keeping It Real Bass Fishing. I guarantee you ain't never saw it on another channel, and you ain't never gonna see it on another channel. This is the first place, the first time, I bet you. You see this rig right here? If somebody else knows this, I like to see and know that they know. It's a spook. It's a medium-sized spook. But I got a leader tied off the back of it. Guess what's hanging there? Anybody know what that is? I'm sure you guys will catch white bass, or maybe a smallmouth. That's called a nice fly. Good luck finding one. But you tie that puppy off the back of it like that right there. And the fish, if you find fish chasing shad or schooling, especially this time of year because the shad are real small, that'll get them right there. That'll get them. Just remember, you learned that here. If you try that and you go catch some fish on it, you win a tournament or anything, you better let me know about it. But anyway, guys, I appreciate it. I got some other stuff here, we talked about. I tell you another thing that's good too. People might not, they don't do this a lot, but I mean, you can throw your worms. There's long worms, there's shorter worms. Like I told you before, I like bubble gum, not bubble gum, grape and June bug. That's what I'm trying to think of, not bubble gum. June bug. And that's June bug. That's a real good color. Grape is a good color this time of year. This is what I was thinking about bubble gum. Trick worms are good too this time of year. Some people call it float worm or trick worm. Now, that's bubble gum right there. You can get them in all colors. There's pumpkin seed, there's watermelon seed, there's white, there's orange, there's probably 1,000 colors. Black and blue, you name it, they're out there. These have been around for years. These are good at this time of year. When the water's hot and warm in these ponds around the banks, you can take this thing and you can fish it, Carolina rig it, you can Texas rig it, or wacky, what we call wacky, I can't even say the word. Wacky rig it. Get it out, man. I'm tired, guys. But I tell you what I like to do is take a hook, instead of running it through the nose, you take your hook and run it, come down about an inch and stick it in here. And then run it on the hook like you would if it's going to Texas rig it. What that does, it causes that head to stick up like that. It causes that worm to sit there like that, a head stick up like that. And you take that, throw that thing, don't put no weight on it. You could put a swivel, tie put about a 3/0 hook in there. It could go 4/0, but I use 3/0 wide gap. And tie it off about 2 foot. Put your swivel on this side out here. Get a little extra weight, but it also helps you keep from getting your line from twisting. But anyway, you fire that puppy up and down the side of that bank like I was telling you. Remember, stay about 3, 4, 5 feet off the bank. You can kind of, depending on the depth, you know, in the pond. Some ponds are really shallow up on next to the bank. Some of them might have some deeper water, so you kind of gotta figure that out where the best, you know, how far you need to be out. But and find out how them fish are, where they're staging and how they're roaming up through there. But if you fire that puppy out there and just work it back across the top of that water, you can fish it fast, like a jerk bait, then pause and let it sink, or just work it slow, fish it like a fluke, you know, just let it fall to the bottom and pick it up. Let it fall to the bottom and pick it up. They catch fish too this time of year. Fish in a pond. Now, the stuff I've told you, this is stuff I use at this time of year. This is stuff I throw, pretty much, to try to catch big fish and catch big bass, and I've done it successfully doing it. It's just a matter of finding the ponds and, you know, just got some good fish in them. And that's another thing, is you gotta learn to do. And that'll be on another video. That'll be another video I'd like to do. I think that'd be good, is on pond hunting, or finding good ponds to fish, or how do I find the right ponds to fish. Pond hopping. I don't like the pond hop, but we can go out and explore some different ponds and go to some ponds I haven't fished and show you how what I do and how I work that pond and figure that pond out and see if it's got any fish in it, and go from there. I think that'd be interesting, that a thing to do. I know you guys would like to learn how to do that, because I've had some guys ask me about that. But anyway, I appreciate you I'm tired. Appreciate you tuning in to the broadcast, to our channel again. Like I say, is Keeping It Real Bass Fishing. My name is Scott. Like I said, I do like to, you know, keep it real as I can. I do appreciate you guys a lot. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Don't forget to do that. Hit that like button if you liked our content we talked about today. If it's helped you, leave me a comment. And again, if you have any questions, or if you got an idea on the video you'd like me to do, anything I can help you with, let me know. Also, if you would hit that notification button, that way you'll be able to be alerted when our next video comes out. All right, guys, we appreciate it. And I'll say keep it real and let's go catch a big one. Have a good evening.